So picture this. You are walking down a hallway you have never seen before in your life.
Right, a very classic dream scenario.
Exactly. And the wallpaper is this intricate, shifting geometric pattern, and the air smells, I don't know, faintly of ozone and old books.
Setting the scene perfectly.
Yeah, so you open this heavy oak door at the end of the hall, and suddenly, boom, you are sitting at a small cafe table talking to a friend you haven't seen in 20 years.
As one does in a dream.
Right. The conversation is flowing, the coffee is hot, and right in the middle of this bizarre, totally disjointed narrative, a switch just flips in your brain.
A realization.
Yes, you look at your coffee cup, you look at your old friend, and you realize, oh my gosh, I am dreaming.
It is the ultimate lightning strike of consciousness, really. That
Yeah.
famous spark of lucidity.
And the rush of that moment is just absolutely incredible. I mean, for a split second, you realize you are holding the reins to an entire universe.
Because you have no physical limitations at that point.
Exactly. Gravity is just a suggestion. Time is completely irrelevant. But then, almost inevitably, if you are like me and countless others who try to navigate this space, one of two extremely frustrating things happens.
And both of them involve losing the experience entirely.
Yeah, sadly. Either you get so incredibly excited by this godlike realization that your heart rate spikes, your physical body in the bed actually reacts to that adrenaline, and boom, you wake up staring at your dark, boring ceiling.
Or the alternative, which is arguably worse.
Oh, it might be worse. Yeah, you just lose the thread of awareness entirely.
Yeah.
The sheer gravity of the dream narrative just swallows you back up.
You go right back to believing you actually are late for a math test you haven't studied for in a decade.
Right. It is the great frustration of anyone who has ever tried to become a conscious explorer of their own mind. You touch the infinite, you know.
You realize your own boundless potential for a fraction of a second, and then the door slams shut in your face.
Which brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring the massive, deeply complex material channeled by Jane Roberts, specifically the teachings of the entity known as Seth.
And we are focusing on a very specific set of insights today.
We are. We've compiled insights strictly from 3 foundational texts. That is, dreams, evolution, and value fulfillment, the nature of the psyche, and Seth, dreams, and projections of consciousness.
And according to those specific texts, this fleeting state of lucid dreaming isn't just some fun parlor trick.
Or a quirk of neuroscience, right? Or a psychological anomaly. Seth says it is a cornerstone skill.
It is something that anyone who wants to understand the nature of reality, what Seth calls the dream art scientist, absolutely must master.
So the ultimate question we are unpacking for you today is, how do we become reliably lucid? And far more importantly, how do we maintain control and navigate that space once we actually get there?
Well, what is truly fascinating about the Seth material is how it completely upends our fundamental baseline assumption about what dreaming actually is.
Right, because we usually view it as this passive thing that just happens to us.
Exactly. You just described the sheer frustration of trying to wake up inside a dream. But Seth's core philosophy validates that very attempt in a really profound, paradigm-shifting way.
How so?
He states, quite literally, that the dreaming psyche is actually as awake as you are in your normal waking life. It is not a diminished state at all.
So it is not just a screensaver for your brain while your body repairs tissue.
Not even close. When you become aware that you are dreaming, you have the ability to consciously change the dream. And here is the concept that changes everything Seth teaches, that doing this is literally training for changing your waking reality.
Okay, let's hold on that point, because if I'm hearing you correctly, that is a massive philosophical shift.
It really is.
I mean, we're usually taught that waking life is the quote-unquote real reality, right? The primary source. And the dream is just a pale reflection.
A sort of chaotic soup where our brain frantically processes the leftovers of the day.
Exactly. But you are saying Seth argues the exact opposite. That manipulating a dream is actually training for manipulating waking reality.
Precisely. If we are going to understand how to stay conscious in a dream, we have to look at how we culturally view sleep.
Which is usually just as downtime.
Right. We are conditioned to think of sleep as a small death, a mandatory period of unconsciousness where the body goes into maintenance mode and consciousness just sort of flickers out or goes dormant.
But Seth says no to that.
Absolutely no. He argues that the inner ego, the deeper, multi-dimensional part of our identity, is wildly conscious, active, and creative during sleep.
So waking life is actually a specialized extension of the dream state.
Yes, waking reality emerges from the dream state, not the other way around.
Okay, my instinct is to immediately push back on that because that feels totally backward to everything we observe.
It does feel counterintuitive at first.
I mean, I wake up, I go to work, I pay bills, I interact with physical matter. That feels incredibly primary. Are you saying that when I go to sleep, I'm returning to the actual factory floor where that physical reality is manufactured?
That is exactly the framework Seth presents in these texts. The dream world is the inner reality of events from which the physical world emerges.
So it's the blueprint stage.
Yes, in the dream state, you are dealing with the raw blueprints of experience. Physical reality is essentially just the finalized, solidified printout of the work you do while you are dreaming.
Wow. So if your goal is to build a reliable bridge to that inner reality to become lucid and conscious on that factory floor, you cannot just wait until you are asleep to start the work.
You have to start while you're supposedly awake, because if you don't question your reality when you are awake, you will never question it when you are asleep.
That makes so much sense. We spend vast portions of our waking lives on complete autopilot anyway.
Exactly. Think about your daily commute or washing the dishes. You are technically awake, but your conscious focus is entirely absent.
You are just going through the motions.
Right. And if you are a passive observer in your physical life, you will absolutely be a passive observer in your dream life.
Which brings us to the very first highly practical technique sourced directly from Seth's instructions.
Daytime awareness checks.
Now, anyone listening who has dabbled in lucid dreaming forums has probably heard of reality checks.
Sure. It is a common concept now.
But looking at these specific sources, Seth's approach to this feels much more foundational. It's not just about, looking at your hands to see if you have 6 fingers or trying to push your finger through your palm.
No, it goes much deeper than that.
He suggests training your waking mind to constantly audit its own state of consciousness so that this rigorous habit bleeds over into your sleeping mind.
Yes. Seth suggests a very specific disciplined exercise. You must pause during your normal daily routine multiple times a day and ask yourself a very specific question.
Which is,
What am I actually conscious of at this time?
yeah,
And you do not just ask it passively, like some passing thought.
you have to really mean it.
You engage with the question deeply. You do it first with your eyes open. You take in the physical data of the room. Notice the temperature of the air on your skin, the distant sound of traffic, the texture of the chair you are sitting on.
So you actively lock into the physical environment. You ground yourself completely in the sensory data of the waking world.
Right. But then comes the crucial second step. You close your eyes and you ask the question again.
What am I conscious of at this time?
Exactly. With your visual input cut off, what is actually left? You begin to recognize the feeling of your own consciousness, independent of the physical world. You are establishing a psychological baseline.
I see. It is like you are training yourself to identify the pure frequency of, I am aware.
That is a beautiful way to phrase it.
Because when you are in a dream, the physical sensory data is gone, right? It's replaced by dream data. If you don't know what your own raw consciousness feels like without the crutch of the physical world, you won't recognize yourself in the dream space.
Precisely. You are teaching your conscious mind to regularly audit its own state of awareness. You are building a neurological and psychological habit of critical observation.
So by stopping 5 or 10 times a day to genuinely ask, am I awake? What am I conscious of? You are basically programming a subroutine into your psyche.
And eventually that subroutine will run while you are asleep. You will be flying over a purple ocean in a dream, and suddenly that programmed habit will trigger.
Wait, what am I conscious of right now?
Yes, and that is the spark of lucidity.
That makes perfect sense. Autopilot is the enemy of lucidity. So we break the autopilot during the day. But what happens as we actually cross the threshold into sleep?
Well, Seth has some very specific protocols for that transition window, starting with pre-sleep intention.
And I want to be very clear for you listening, because as I read through the nature of the psyche, I realize this isn't just wishing upon a star.
It is not a passive activity.
Right. It's not just laying in bed feeling exhausted and passively thinking, gee, it would be really cool if I had a lucid dream tonight.
No, passivity will not work here at all. Seth is extremely specific about the phrasing and the mental posture required. You have to firmly state your intention to your inner self.
You are issuing a directive.
You tell yourself, I can remember my dreams and write them down in the morning. Or, tonight I will realize I am dreaming.
It sounds almost like self-hypnosis. You are speaking to your subconscious mind as if it is a subordinate that needs clear, actionable instructions.
It is exactly like that. In the Seth material, a core tenet is that the conscious mind directs unconscious activity.
So my beliefs dictate the experience.
Your beliefs, your expectations, and your explicit commands set the parameters for what your broader consciousness will experience and, crucially, what your waking brain will be allowed to remember.
That is a huge point, the memory block, because Seth suggests we are already having these incredibly profound, highly organized, multidimensional experiences every single night.
We just don't remember them.
Right. We aren't trying to invent lucid dreams. We are trying to remove the amnesia that prevents us from remembering them.
Precisely. If you hold a conscious or subconscious belief that dreams are just chaotic nonsense or that they are unimportant, your conscious mind acts as a bouncer.
The bouncer.
Yes, it will block the recall of those profound experiences to protect your waking belief system.
Wow, okay.
By firmly stating, "Tonight I will realize I am dreaming," you are giving the bouncer a new set of instructions. You are giving your waking ego permission to remain alert as the physical body goes to sleep.
And you are commanding the physical brain to record the data upon waking.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered the psychological intention, but here's where the material takes a sharp left turn into territory that honestly surprised me.
I think I know what you're going to bring up.
We've talked about mental habits, reality checks, and issuing psychological commands, but Seth introduces a highly specific, very physical, chemical component to this process.
Ah, yes. The starchy snack.
The starchy snack. I was reading through the text, deep in these profound metaphysical concepts about the nature of the soul and the fabric of reality, and suddenly Seth recommends taking a small, starchy, or sugary snack before bed.
If you want to achieve conscious projection or lucidity, yes.
I had to read it 3 times. I mean, why on earth would a dense philosophical text about the nature of consciousness recommend eating a cracker before bed?
It is a jarring detail, for sure. But it raises a vital point about how Seth views the relationship between the physical body and consciousness.
Because he doesn't separate them, right?
He does not separate them into isolated silos. A lot of esoteric traditions treat the body as a trap, something to be ignored or transcended.
Right, leave the meat suit behind.
But Seth treats the body as a deeply integrated partner to consciousness. According to him, dreaming, and specifically the projection of consciousness out of the normal sleep state, has a definite chemical basis.
Okay, break that down for me. How does digesting a carbohydrate relate to my consciousness leaving my body?
During your waking hours, as you interact with the physical world, your body builds up and utilizes certain chemicals. Adrenaline, cortisol, dopamine, the chemical vocabulary of physical survival.
Sir, the stuff that keeps us moving.
During sleep, the body's metabolic processes shift. Seth explains that when you intend to project your consciousness or become fully lucid, the body requires a specific kind of fuel to facilitate that shift in focus.
So it's a biological requirement.
He states that there is a profound connection between the physical body and the traveling consciousness, and it is based upon a certain sugar molecule in a form not normally seen.
A sugar molecule not normally seen, so we aren't just talking about basic blood glucose.
Right. Seth implies that the breakdown of specific starches or sugars during the unique physiological state of sleep produces a specialized metabolic byproduct.
And what does that byproduct do?
It provides the kinetic thrust, the literal biochemical rocket fuel needed to propel the conscious mind out of its localized physical focus and into the broader reality of the dream state without losing its waking awareness.
So if I can use an analogy, it is like trying to launch a space shuttle.
How like where this is going.
The intention and the reality checks are the navigation coordinates. They tell the shuttle exactly where to go, but without the chemical fuel, the physical thrust, the shuttle just sits on the launch pad.
That is an excellent analogy.
The waking awareness just doesn't have the energy to achieve escape velocity from the physical body's gravitational pull.
Exactly. The inner self, the soul, doesn't need physical fuel, of course. But the bridge, the mechanism that allows your waking ego to travel into that space and retain its memory, is tethered to your biology.
So a small piece of toast, a cracker, or a piece of fruit before bed actually provides that specific biological thrust.
The thrust required to launch the conscious mind into the dream state intact.
That is endlessly fascinating. The idea that spirituality and biology are that tightly woven. Okay, so let's put this together into a practical scenario for you listening. Let's say you've done the work.
You've prepared the ground?
You've been doing your daytime reality checks. You've audited your consciousness. You've eaten your little piece of toast. You set a firm, commanding intention, and you fall asleep. And it happens. The spark ignites.
The threshold is crossed.
Yes. You are standing in what looks like your living room. You look down at your hands and you realize with absolute clarity, I am dreaming.
It is a profound moment.
But here is my major pushback. And this is where and I think a lot of people listening, routinely fail. Let's say I get lucid. I have the awareness. But the environment is completely chaotic.
Chaos is very common
So the
initially.
walls of the living room are melting like wax. There's a brass band playing in the corner that sounds like it's underwater. The floor is turning into a geometric grid, and I cannot control any of it.
The waking ego is overwhelmed.
Exactly. My waking ego panics. I try to force the walls to stop melting. I get overwhelmed by the sensory overload, and I either lose the lucidity and get swept away by the chaos, or I wake up in a cold sweat. How do we survive that initial turbulence?
This is perhaps the most critical juncture in the entire practice of lucid dreaming. Seth calls this phase stabilizing lucidity.
Stabilizing. Okay.
When you awaken within a dream, your critical waking faculties come online. You realize you are in a reality. But as you noted, it appears highly plastic, unstable, and often deeply bizarre.
So how do we fix it?
Seth's method for stabilizing this environment is brilliant, but it requires a deep understanding of what you are actually looking at. His instruction is simple: test the environment.
Tested how? By trying to break it.
No, by observing it critically. When you become lucid, look around the room and check it against its normal arrangement.
Like comparing it to my waking memory of the room.
Yes, if you believe you're in your living room, does it actually look like your living room? You must look for incongruities.
Things that don't belong.
Seth uses a fantastic, vivid example in the text. He says, imagine you project your consciousness and you find yourself standing on a wintry, snow-covered street. But standing right in the middle of the snowbank is a girl in a summer bathing suit.
Okay, a clear incongruity. Something that absolutely does not belong in that environment.
Exactly. When you encounter an incongruity like that, you have to make a vital choice.
Yeah.
And this is where the untrained mind fails.
Right, because if I see a girl in a bathing suit in the snow while I'm dreaming, my instinct is to just accept it. The dream logic just takes over, and I rationalize it.
You make an excuse for it.
Yeah, I go, oh, well, I guess she's immune to the cold, or maybe it's a new fashion trend in this weird snow town.
And the absolute second you do that,
Yeah.
the moment you rationalize the incongruity, you lose your lucidity.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Yeah.
You have surrendered your critical waking awareness to the hypnotic narrative of the dream. You fall back into passive acceptance.
So what are we supposed to do instead?
To stabilize the dream, Seth says you must use your will to make the incongruous element disappear.
Wait, you have to actively banish it?
Yes.
Mm.
You must recognize the girl in the bathing suit, not as a part of the dream reality, but as a hallucination that you are projecting over the dream reality. You command it to vanish.
Hold on, let me stop you there because this is a massive knot to untangle. If I am in a dream, isn't everything a hallucination?
That is the common assumption.
The snow is a hallucination. The street is a hallucination. How can I banish a hallucination from a hallucination? How do I know which parts are the real dream and which parts are the incongruities?
That is the perfect question, and it strikes at the very heart of Seth's metaphysics. We assume that dreams are 100% psychological fantasy happening inside the skull.
Right.
Seth states that this is entirely false. He teaches that the dream reality is an objective dimension.
Objective, meaning it exists outside of me.
Yes, it is an environment constructed of electromagnetic energy and consciousness units. It has its own physics, its own geography, and what Seth calls its own root assumptions.
Root assumptions, like how in our physical reality, gravity and linear time are root assumptions. We all agree on them and they structure our world.
Precisely. The dream dimension has its own root assumptions. Things like the instantaneous travel of consciousness, telepathy, and the immediate materialization of thought into form.
Okay, I follow you.
So the wintry street in Seth's example is a valid construct within that dimension. But here is the problem. When your waking ego suddenly wakes up in that dimension, it is terrified.
Because none of the physical rules apply.
Exactly. It is in an alien environment where gravity doesn't work and thoughts become objects instantly. To protect itself from this overwhelming strangeness, your ego frantically projects familiar chaotic symbols from your physical life over the actual dream environment.
Oh, wow. So we are essentially slapping a psychological VR headset over our own eyes while standing inside the dream world.
That is exactly what is happening.
The brass band in my living room, the melting walls, those aren't the dream itself. Those are my ego's panic defense mechanisms scrambling the signal.
That is exactly what they are. You are hallucinating over the dream reality. The girl in the bathing suit is a chaotic projection of your own mind, layered on top of the stable dream street.
That is wild.
By recognizing the incongruity and using your will to banish it, You are taking off the psychological VR headset. You strip away the chaotic projections.
And then what happens?
When you banish the hallucination, Seth says you are left standing in the stable, basic, underlying dream environment. The melting stops, the brass band disappears.
The environment snaps into crystal clear focus.
Yes, and from that point of stability, you can begin to deliberately explore.
That is profoundly empowering. The chaos isn't the dream failing. The chaos is just me getting in my own way. We just have to clear the cache, so to speak.
A very modern way to put it, but accurate.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the mechanics of this. We know we need to build the bridge with reality checks during the day. We need the firm intention, the chemical fuel of the starchy snack, and we know how to stabilize the environment by banishing the chaotic projections.
We have the foundation.
But I think to really grasp the magnitude of what is possible here, we need to look at someone who actually mastered this. Let's talk about Jane Roberts herself.
Yes, the channeler of the material.
The woman who channeled this material wasn't just sitting in a chair taking dictation. She was actively applying these techniques in her own life, wasn't she?
She was a deeply dedicated, fearless explorer of this space. Jane's experiences, which are documented extensively in these texts, offer incredible concrete examples of real-world application for you listening.
She lived material.
She did. She experienced frequent, incredibly intense lucid dreams and what she categorized as awake-seeming dreams. And she did not just use this ability to fly around and play superhero.
Right, it wasn't just a joyride.
She used it as a profound tool for multidimensional exploration. She received teachings directly from Seth in the dream state and rehearsed creative projects. She found that lucid dream practice made her waking creative work flow more effortlessly.
The accounts of her projections in Seth, dreams, and projections of consciousness are absolutely wild. There is one specific instance that stands out to me.
Which one?
She is reading a book by an author named Oliver Fox about astral projection. She decides she is going to test the waters. She lies down, completely awake, uses her willpower, and suddenly she feels this intense, almost painful, wrenching sensation.
A physical click at the back of her neck.
Yes, and she is instantly flying out of her second-story window.
She describes projecting out of her physical body, fully conscious, and flying over Water Street in Elmira, New York, heading toward the mountains.
And what is most crucial for our discussion here is her psychological reaction to this event.
Because she was not perfectly calm.
No. She was fully alert, she knew exactly who she was, and she was absolutely terrified of falling.
Which is the ultimate proof that she had her critical waking faculties with her. If it were a normal passive dream, you'd just fly and think nothing of it.
Dream logic just accepts flying. The visceral, panicked fear of falling from a height strictly belongs to the physical waking ego.
Exactly. That fear is a physical survival mechanism. Seth used this experience to explain a vital concept to Jane. Waking consciousness can be taken into the dream state, but the physical ego cannot fully translate into that space.
Because it's too tied to the body.
Right, the specific portion of your identity that deals solely with physical manipulation, avoiding traffic, paying bills, and keeping the body safe from gravity. When the physical ego tries to assert its rules in the dream reality, it falters.
It panics because it doesn't know how to compute an environment without gravity.
Jane had to learn how to leave the physical ego's anxieties behind while maintaining her conscious awareness. She had to learn to trust the buoyancy of the dream environment.
And she clearly did learn to trust it because her explorations went far beyond just flying around her neighborhood. She started using this lucid state to access completely different frameworks of reality.
The multidimensional aspects.
Like the dream where she and her husband, Rob, are visiting this vast, intricate Turkish hall.
This is a vital example because it directly challenges our assumptions about time, identity, and the objective nature of dream locations.
Break that down for us.
In this specific lucid state, Jane and Rob were both men. They were partners in some kind of historical episode, dressed in billowing Turkish trousers, navigating this incredibly detailed architectural space.
But she knew she was Jane.
Yes. She knew simultaneously within the dream that they would later become the Jane and Rob of her current 20th century physical life. She held the awareness of both identities at once, even though they looked and existed in completely different contexts.
So how do we interpret that? Was she time traveling? Was she accessing a literal past life?
Both, and neither, depending on how you view time.
Typical Seth answer.
Well, Seth teaches that time is not linear, it is simultaneous. All of your past and future lives are happening right now in a broader, multidimensional framework.
Okay, so they exist concurrently.
Seth explained that in the dream state, you are not just hallucinating locations, you are visiting actual dimensions. He told Jane, dream locations are not superimposed upon the bed and chest and chair. In some dream states, you form from these same atoms and molecules the environment in which you will operate.
So Jane was using the lucid dream state to literally tune her consciousness to a different reincarnational frequency, exploring the vast, simultaneous nature of her own overarching identity.
That is exactly what she was doing.
That concept absolutely breaks my brain. The idea that the dream space isn't just a private holodeck inside your skull, but a shared objective dimension. An environment where you use a different frequency of energy to construct environments that are as real as the room I'm sitting in right now.
It expands the definition of reality significantly.
But her explorations didn't stop at reincarnational pasts. She used the dream state to interact with what Seth calls probable selves. And this brings us to one of the most fascinating anecdotes in the entire collection of sources.
The concept of probabilities is central to Seth's teachings. It is the idea that every time you make a significant choice, you create a physical reality based on that choice.
But what happens to the choices we don't make?
Choices you didn't make do not just vanish into nothingness. They continue to be explored and actualized by probable selves in alternate branching realities.
And Jane interacted with them?
Jane and some of the students in her ESP classes actively use the lucid dream state to interact with these alternate versions of themselves.
Right. There's that incredible example involving Jane's friend and student, Sue Watkins.
Yes, the apartment visit.
Sue manages to become lucid in a dream, and she remembers the Seth material. She decides she wants to test the theory of probabilities. She uses her will to navigate to Jane and Rob's apartment in a different probability system.
And what she finds is very different from their actual life.
Completely different. She arrives, but the apartment is barren, the walls are painted a drab beige, and the versions of Jane and Rob living there look much older, exhausted, and deeply cynical.
A different set of life choices played out.
Sue actually walks up to them, fully lucid, and introduces herself. And this alternate, probable Jane and Rob just look at her with this nasty, dismissive, so what expression and completely ignore her.
It is a humorous interaction, but the metaphysical implication is staggering. When Sue brought this experience to the Waken class, Seth validated it.
He confirmed she actually went there.
He explained that Sue had genuinely tuned her consciousness into a probable reality where Jane and Rob had made different life choices. Perhaps choices born of fear or compromise, resulting in a much more cynical, hardened, and isolated existence.
And why did they ignore her?
They couldn't perceive Sue properly because she was vibrating at the frequency of a different probability.
Wow. And Jane did this herself too, right?
Yes. Jane herself also projected into probable pasts. She had a profound experience where she projected back to Saratoga Springs, her hometown, and saw herself as an infant in a carriage.
Looking at her own baby self.
She described the sensation as being in it, and not in it, a focused projection into a fluctuating state of consciousness where she could observe the branching paths of her own life.
It is as if the dream state is the connective tissue, the metaphysical internet, linking all these different versions of reality.
That is a very apt metaphor.
Which brings me to a concept from dreams, evolution, and value fulfillment that I want to spend some serious time unpacking because I think it is the most empowering, awe-inspiring idea in this entire deep dive.
It is a monumental concept.
Jake realized through these lucid experiences and through Seth's dictation that the dream state is where all great inventions, all monumental artwork, and even the architectural quote-unquote glory that was Rome were first conceived.
This is the pinnacle of Seth's teaching on dreams. Dreams are not just the brain's waste management system. They are the psyche's free play and its highest, most potent form of art.
So they are actively creative.
Seth states explicitly, there is no craft that was not first conceived of by an individual dreamer who later transferred it to the social world of activity.
He specifically calls out Thomas Edison in the text.
He does.
He says that Edison's flashes of intuition, the mechanical breakthroughs that led to the light bulb and the phonograph, were entirely dream-inspired. Now, my initial reaction to that is a bit of defense on behalf of Edison.
Understandably so.
Doesn't that take away from his waking genius? If he just downloaded the invention from a dream, does that diminish the sweat and tears he put into his laboratory?
Not at all. It redefines what his genius actually was. Seth introduces the concept of the mass dream.
The mass dream.
Humanity shares a psychic substrate, a collective inner reality. When a society reaches a point where it deeply needs a new technology like safe, reliable light, Millions of people project that collective need into the dream state.
So everyone is dreaming about a solution together.
The dream state acts as a vast collaborative R&D department, free from the constraints of physical time and material cost.
Hmm.
Edison, through his intense waking focus and desire, tapped into that collective blueprint while he slept.
Oh, I see.
His waking genius was the agonizing, meticulous work of translating that perfect, frictionless dream concept into the stubborn, resistant mechanics of physical matter.
The translation, that is the key word. The blueprint exists in the dream, but you still have to build the house in the physical world.
Exactly.
Seth says, in the dreaming state, then, the needs and desires of families, communities, and countries are well known. The dream state serves as a rich source for the world's knowledge and is also therefore responsible for the outgrowth of its technology.
It changes everything about how we view progress.
That changes how I view human history. You mentioned Rome earlier. The idea that the aqueducts, the Colosseum, the intricate legal systems, that all of it was built, tested, and experienced in the dream world before a single physical brick was ever laid in Italy.
It requires a total reversal of our worldview. We look at a skyscraper and think, that started as a sketch on a napkin. Seth says, no, the sketch on the napkin is merely a shadow of the fully formed skyscraper that was already erected in the multidimensional reality of the dream state.
That is just incredible.
When you are dreaming, you are literally standing in the workshop of physical reality. You are manipulating the raw blueprints of tomorrow.
But if that is true, it forces us to ask a really heavy ethical and existential question.
Which is?
If the physical world is just the printout of the dream world, what is the point of the physical world? If we've already built Rome in our dreams, why bother dealing with the plague, the mortar, and the lead poisoning to build it here? Why do we need the physical translation?
Because physical reality provides the friction necessary for the soul's evolution.
The friction.
In the dream world, thoughts instantly become reality. You desire a castle, it appears. You desire a meal, you taste it. Because manifestation is instantaneous, you do not fully learn the consequences of your own creative energy.
It's too easy.
Physical reality is a specialized learning environment. It slows down the manifestation process through the illusion of linear time. It forces you to labor over your creations.
So it's a training ground.
By dealing with the resistance of matter, by experiencing the delay between thought and physical manifestation, you learn the actual weight and responsibility of your own consciousness. The physical world is the ultimate testing ground for the dream art scientist.
Wow. We endured the friction of matter to learn how to handle our own power responsibly. That makes me want to go to sleep right now and get back to work.
It does reframe the purpose of sleep entirely.
It completely reframes why we sleep. We aren't just resting our muscles so you can go back to the grindstone. We are returning to the drafting board to design a better grindstone.
Exactly.
So if we want to be conscious, deliberate participants at that drafting board, if someone listening wants to wake up on the factory floor tonight, we need a concrete plan. Let's synthesize these dense, massive books into a clear, actionable protocol.
Let's lay out the steps.
If you want to achieve lucidity tonight, what is the absolute first step?
It requires discipline, but, as Seth insists, it is a highly learnable skill. Step 1 is preparation. As we discussed, this work begins long before your head hits the pillow.
Right, the daytime stuff.
You must rigorously perform daytime awareness checks. Stop whatever you are doing, whether you are reading an email, walking the dog, or baking dinner, and ask, am I dreaming right now?
Right.
What am I actually conscious of?
And we do this how many times?
Do this at least 5 times a day. Do it with your eyes open, taking in the environment, and do it with your eyes closed, feeling your own presence. You have to build the habit of critical awareness.
And practically speaking, for step 1, you must physically prepare your space. Keep a dedicated notebook and a pen right by your bed.
Yes, that is crucial.
Do not rely on your smartphone to record your dreams. The blue light, the notifications, the act of unlocking the screen, all of it will instantly jolt your brain waves out of that delicate transitional state.
That transitional state is known as the hypnopompic state. It is the incredibly fragile doorway between sleep and waking, where the dream imagery is still lingering in your consciousness. Looking at a bright screen will shatter that doorway instantly.
Good to know.
And of course, step 1 also includes our surprising biochemical tool. Consider taking that small, starchy or sugary snack before bed to provide the specific metabolic fuel required for conscious projection.
Okay, so the groundwork is laid, the notebook is there, the reality checks are done. What is the protocol right as you are falling asleep?
Step 2 is intention and the dream camera.
The dream camera. I love this part.
This technique is drawn directly from what Seth categorizes as practice element 14. Before you drift off, you do not just lazily set an intention, you engage in a very specific, active visualization. You tell yourself firmly that you are taking a mental camera into the dream state with you.
That is such a brilliant tactile metaphor. Why a camera?
Because it gives the conscious mind a highly specific mechanical task to perform, which acts as an anchor.
So you aren't just floating around aimlessly.
You tell yourself that you will be fully aware of this camera while you are asleep. You instruct your inner self that you will wait for the point of clearest perception in your dream the moment the landscape comes into sharp focus, and you will mentally snap a picture.
Just one clear picture.
More importantly, you command yourself to consciously bring that specific image back across the threshold so that it is the very first thing you see in your mind's eye when you wake up.
It's like you're giving your brain a targeted retrieval mechanism. You aren't just hoping to remember a vague feeling, you are actively packing a specific piece of luggage to carry back across the border.
A perfect way to look at it.
Okay, so you set the camera, you fall asleep, and it works. You realize you are dreaming. You see a chaotic incongruity, a brass band in your kitchen, and you banish it with your will.
The environment stabilizes.
The room stops spinning, you are stabilized. Now what? Because I know from experience my instinct is to freeze, to barely breathe, terrified that if I make a sudden move, I will break the simulation and wake up.
And that instinct is exactly what you must overcome. Which brings us to step 3, which is expansion.
Expansion, okay.
This is drawn from practice element 15. Once you are lucid and the environment is stabilized, you must not remain static. Remaining static allows the waking ego's anxiety to creep back in.
So we have to move.
Seth specifically instructs us to boldly expand inner space.
How exactly do we do that?
By moving with deliberate intent. If you find yourself in a room, do not just stand there. Deliberately walk to the door and open it, fully expecting another room or a landscape to be there.
Push the boundaries of the dream.
If you are in a house, walk to the window and look outside. Seth assures us that because the dream environment responds instantaneously to your expectations, it will continuously generate space and detail for you. He says there will be no spot in the dream where the environment will cease.
Because in physical reality, we have to travel through linear space to get to a location. But in the dream reality, our expectation actually causes the location to spring into existence around us.
The environment comes to you, formed by your intent.
Exactly. You are exercising your innate ability to generate reality through pure, directed expectation. By walking through that dream door with confidence, you are proving to your conscious mind that you are not locked inside a static hallucination.
You are navigating a responsive, infinite objective dimension. You are taking your first real steps as a dream art scientist.
That is the ultimate power trip, but in the most profoundly creative way possible. You are painting with reality itself. Okay, finally, step 4. The dream inevitably ends.
As they all do.
You feel the physical weight of your body returning. You feel yourself waking up. What is the protocol?
Step 4 is recording. And absolute speed is of the essence here. Upon waking, you must record everything immediately.
Don't wait until after breakfast.
Seth warns extensively against the drugging of the conscious mind that occurs if you sleep too long, or if you allow your waking routine to immediately take over. Do not check your phone. Do not go to the bathroom. Do not even stretch excessively.
Just grab the notebook.
Grab the physical notebook you place by the bed in step 1 and write down the image from your mental dream camera. Capture that first, and then let the rest of the details flow out onto the paper.
And what if I do all of this and I don't remember a full hour-long lucid adventure? What if I only bring back a fragment? Like just a single image of a blue door or just a weird, lingering emotion?
You must record it anyway. Treat that fragment as absolute gold. By writing it down, you are building a new neurological pathway.
Proving to your brain that it matters.
You are proving to your unconscious self that your waking ego deeply values this information. Seth teaches that even if you only bring back a fragment, the physical act of recording it bridges the gap between the two selves.
And eventually it gets easier.
Over time, as you prove your dedication, the fragments will become full scenes, and those scenes will blossom into fully conscious lucid experiences.
All right, we have laid it all out. We've given you the diagnosis of the problem, the incredible real-world examples from Jane Roberts' own explorations, and the precise 4-step Seth Lucidity Protocol. So now we are issuing a direct challenge to you, the listener.
Because knowledge is only valuable when it is applied and experienced. Reading about swimming will not keep you from drowning.
That is a great point.
We challenge you to practice this Lucidity Protocol relentlessly for the next 7 days. Treat your sleep not as a biological necessity, but as an experiment in your own personal laboratory of consciousness.
Let's clearly define the actionable tasks for this week. Task 1, the daytime checks. Do the what am I conscious of audit at least 5 times a day. Stop what you are doing. Look at your hands. Read a piece of text on a sign. Look away and read it again. Check your reality.
That builds the necessary habit.
Task 2, set the intention every single night. Eat your small, starchy snack, lie in bed, and repeat your command to your inner self. Visualize that mental camera. Take it with you into the dark.
Very important.
Task 3, record absolutely anything you remember the exact moment your eyes open. And I want to highlight something really tricky, something incredibly frustrating that might happen to you this week, the false awakening.
Ah, yes. This is a fascinating psychological phenomena. It's where you dream that you have physically woken up.
Right. You dream, you wake up in your bed, you lean over, you grab your notebook, you write down this incredible lucid dream in perfect detail, you go downstairs, make coffee, and tell your partner all about it. And then you actually wake up.
And you realize it was all part of the dream.
You are back in bed, the notebook is totally blank, and you realize the last 20 minutes was all a simulation. It is maddening. But I bring it up because it means you are getting so incredibly close.
It means the protocol is working.
You are hovering right on the very threshold of lucidity. Your brain is trying to process the concept of waking awareness while still asleep. If this happens to you, record it immediately. It absolutely counts as progress.
It is a massive sign of progress. I want to offer some calm, practical encouragement as you embark on this week. Control over this environment comes with practice, patience, and repetition.
Don't beat yourself up if you fail at first.
Do not be discouraged if you face chaotic, melting dreamscapes, or if you get too excited and wake up the absolute second you realize you are dreaming. Seth teaches that even a fleeting millisecond realization of the dream state is a monumental victory for your consciousness.
Why is that millisecond so important, though? Why is it a victory if I fail to maintain it?
Because in that fraction of a second, you have proven to yourself experientially that you are not just a meat machine. You have experienced the fact that your consciousness exists independently of your physical body.
You aren't just your brain.
You are not, as Seth puts it, locked in a closet of time and space. You have accessed the realm of infinite creativity. You realize that you are no longer just a passive consumer of a reality happening to you. You are an active, conscious participant in its ongoing creation.
Not locked in a closet of time and space. That is a beautiful way to phrase it. Spending time immersed in these sources, diving into the deep end of the Seth material, it really radically shifts how you feel at the end of a long day.
It changes the entire context of evening routines.
Usually, going to bed feels like a surrender. You're exhausted, you're tapping out, you're letting the darkness take over for 8 hours. But after internalizing this framework, I feel fully equipped to treat sleep not as a small death, but as the ultimate inner adventure. I'm not powering down, I'm going into the workshop.
That is the exact fundamental mindset shift required to become a dream art scientist. You are no longer fleeing from the day. You are stepping into the laboratory where the physical world itself is engineered.
So if you are listening to this right now, try the protocol tonight. Grab the notebook, pack your mental camera, and see what happens when you confidently step through that door in the hallway.
And as you begin to explore this vast inner landscape, you will undoubtedly encounter profound symbols, strange characters, and recurring thematic landscapes.
Things that don't make obvious sense at first.
Which brings us to the natural next step in this exploration. Once you are awake in the dream, how do you understand what the dream environment is actually trying to communicate to you? Next time, we will be diving into the language of dreams. And to be absolutely clear, we will not be using standardized, generic dream dictionaries.
Right, none of that. If you dream of your teeth falling out, it means you're stressed about money. Or if you dream of a dog, it means loyalty kind of stuff.
Exactly. We will be exploring Seth's highly nuanced teachings on how to understand symbols as the highly specific, customized language of your own inner self. The symbols your mind uses are as unique as your fingerprints, and learning to decode them accurately is the critical next step in mastering your navigation of this reality.
I genuinely cannot wait to unpack that. But before we wrap up this deep dive into lucidity, we want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought directly from the text. We started this conversation by talking about that fleeting moment of lucidity.
That sudden, shocking realization that you are inside a dream.
And Seth takes that very realization to its ultimate, most mind-bending conclusion. He states that the physical universe, as we know it, with all its galaxies, stars, and planets, did not begin from some external, objectified
It
source.
was not a mechanical accident.
The universe was not just a random scattering of dead, unconscious matter following the Big Bang. Instead, Seth states profoundly, the universe dreamed itself into being.
The universe dreamed itself into being.
So as you lay your head on the pillow tonight and you feel yourself drifting toward that delicate threshold between worlds, ask yourself a question. Are you just going to sleep to rest your tired bones, or are you actively participating in the ongoing creation of reality itself? Are you ready to wake up?